Today I'm going to be painting this construction site. I fancied something just a little bit different. And these guys look like they were having fun playing in what looks like a giant sandpit. So let's give it a go. I'm going to start off by sketching out the basic layout. It looks pretty straightforward, but there's actually more going on than meets the eye. So if I sketch this now, I think it's going to make it a bit easier for me later when I come to paint. Just working on the trees back here. I find perspective can be a little tricky, so sketching gives me a little bit of a head start. This gives me an idea if things are in the right place or if they need to be reworked slightly. And just sneak in behind this ridge here is a dump truck. I'll leave the sketch there for now. It's a lovely blue sky, so I'm going to wash that in first. And the colour is deepest at the highest point, and it gets lighter as it works its way down. While it's still wet, I'm going to use a paper towel to not only remove some of that paint, but creates nice cloud effects as well. See how that turns out. Maybe dab a little bit up here as well. And then maybe later I'll go back and add a few wisps of cloud in once that's dried down a little bit. For all of this earth, it's got lots of interesting colours in it, but the lightest I can see is a yellow. I'm not sure I've nailed the shade there. Let's try with something with a little bit more brown in it. And as I'm applying this wash, I'm going to be careful not to go over the machinery. Oh, too late for this one here. But these guys here in the middle to foreground, I'll make sure to leave those untouched. Actually, with the blue sky, I'm going to bring that down over the trees as well. I should have done that earlier, really. I'll just feather off this hard edge that's been created. There we go. I'll just add a little bit of green in this area here, where the trees will sprout from. later. More than anything else, filling in these colours with a wash acts as a further guide to help me find my way in the painting. More just over here. So next I think I'm going to add some orange in. And I really don't mind if this paint pools and pulls in its own direction. I think that can create quite a nice effect. But I still want to make sure that I leave some of these lighter spaces, because what's going to make this image fun is playing around with light and dark and giving a sense of depth. And as I move forward, I'm going to make things a little bit more saturated. Try not to use too much water for some of these darker areas, because I want to indicate that it's a rough terrain. I'm using this red mixed with a brown. Hopefully using this colour as a base will pick everything up a little bit and make things look interesting and as colourful as a huge construction site full of great mounds of earth can look. So I'll start cautiously going in with some brown now, which I've mixed with these other colours on my palette. So with the red and the orange, just so that they share the same tones. And I'm leaving the trees for now. I want the construction site itself to dictate the tone, and then when I know where I am with that, I think it'll better inform me then how to treat the trees and how to render the trees. To find some of the tops of these mounds of earth with a bit more dark brown. And I'll do the same for this ridge at the back as well, but use a bit more water so it remains softer, more pushed into the background. Okay, I need to do something here in the foreground. I've got a big mound of dirt, which at the moment doesn't have a whole lot of colour in it, so I'm going to use a combination of all the colours I've used so far to fill that in. But also I need to make sure that it's dark enough that it looks like it's in the foreground. Just bleed a little bit there to smooth that out. Blend that off over here. Well, that's quite a frenzy of colour I've got going on there. I'm going to say that's the foundation. And while that dries off, I'm going to start working on other elements like the clouds. Just a few small wisps in the sky. And with a wet brush, I'll see if maybe just removing a bit of the paint. Just blend the sky a little more as well. Make sure there's a little bit of contrast with the blue and the white. Not going to do too much for the trees back here. Going to keep it light and quite wet really. Just hinting that there's some forms off in the distance, and these trees here are further forward, so I'll go into more detail with them. Use a combination of browns and greens for these trees. All this earth in the middle and foreground, and it's nice to just sort of decorate it with a bit of foliage. I think the contrast between the two probably works quite nicely. Trying to give those trees a bit more body, some different browns. Just fill them out a little bit. Just adding a bit of texture with dry brush as well. And at their base, I might go to a little bit darker where there's going to be a bit more shadow. I don't want to go too dark because I don't want the trees really to be the main focal point of the image. Just remove a bit with some paper towel. Make sure I've got these trunks a bit more defined as well. Literally just flicks of paint. So the next stage for me now, I think, will be starting to work on the machinery. So the excavator, the earth mover, and this little dump truck. So I'm going to go in with some yellow first, and I think it'd be good if I'm going to try and keep the paint thick. I don't really want it moving around too much. I want to try and maintain a certain level of control. Get this earth mover as well, tackling the darker areas, and then of course there's a little dump truck up here, trundling along. So I've added a little bit of water to the brush, and I'm going to add some lighter yellow to the fronts of the vehicles, where the light's at its brightest along the tops of the vehicles and along the arm of the excavator. I'm going to leave that, I think, just white. But other areas I'm going to use quite a soft yellow, just to give some colour there. I'll be a little bit cautious for the tyres for now. Use a dark brown. I imagine I'll add some even darker colour in there as well. The tread of the excavator. Just get in with a dark line running along the lower side of the cabin. Got a bit of a hydraulic piston here. And another here. And I'll just give a little bit of the cabin as well. There. Same with the earth mover. Got the front grille. Got the bonnet. And the dump truck. Get its wheel in here. And here. Maybe just a little something for the chap sat in the driver's seat. And I do want some juxtaposition between the machinery and the earth, so I will add some black in there as well. Make sure the shadow stretches out from the base of the vehicle, bleeds out. The light's coming from this sort of direction, let's say. Just add a bit more to the ridge here. Just added in some darker areas of brown now to enhance the shadow. I'll be a bit more generous in the middle ground here, and this foreground mound as well. There are some tread marks in the soil down here as well, so with the brush very dry, I'm adding in a few of those so you can see where the vehicles have been moving about. Maybe a few little specks way off here as well. And I'm going to include a few more earthy, warm tones as well, just to dress it up a little bit. Drop a little bit of brown and green in at the back here, with some trees that are way off on the horizon. Maybe go even darker in the middle ground here and up front. A bit more water in there. And maybe a few rocks have gathered at the bottom of this slope here. So I'll just add in something to suggest that. Make it look a bit crumbly. Now this background mound certainly isn't too far away. In fact, you could probably call all of this the middle ground and just this little stretch here the foreground, with this being the background, these trees way off on the horizon. But I do think that I'm losing a little bit of depth here. So I think I'm going to add a bit of water here and use a paper towel to just take out a little bit of the pigment. So that had a very subtle effect, but overall I think it helped with the range of contrast and colour. So I still want to work on this foreground here, and I don't know why, but I kind of want to get my fingers dirty and apply paint in a slightly different way. Just getting some red and some brown on my fingertips. Maybe some orange. Just move it around a little bit. Maybe some even darker brown down here. Smudge that around a bit. Brighter tones as well. It's along the top here. Sorry, not very traditional, I know, but I sort of couldn't help myself. So I'll let this area dry down a bit, and while it does, I'm going to go in with some fine liner now and just bring out a bit more of the detail in the image. Now, because this is the furthest mounds, I don't want to add too much here. I'll just find a few of the darker areas where the paint has fallen and gathered, and I'll just accentuate those a little bit. And of course the vehicles. Have fun sketching in this dump truck here. Little scribble for the chap that's driving that. Okay, let's have a go at this excavator here. Now, I don't want to draw this out right. I'm still trying to be a little bit sketchy how I apply this. But it doesn't matter massively if these are rendered slightly differently from their surroundings, because I do sort of want the machinery to stand out. Get the wheel arches in. And do a little something for the cabin as well. This has dried off now, so I'll add a little bit of something in these areas. There's a fence back here with the trees. Probably shouldn't go into too much detail there. And even though I'm adding ink, it's still the paint which is dictating mainly where I add it, because I want to outline where it's naturally fallen. So I think it still remains quite natural looking, and the paint still steals the show. Maybe just a few flicks in the tree line as well. I'm being a bit more generous along some of the ridges to help the eye land in some of the more important areas. And I won't add any ink to the furthest point on the horizon there, and definitely not the clouds. I want to keep those pushed right into the background. So I'm going to add a few finishing touches now. The dirt in the back of the vehicle here, and then the dump truck as well. Don't want to forget that. Get some into the bucket of the excavator. Maybe a little bit of blue for the bucket itself. Get these pistons and the tread of the vehicle, again blue to get away from those earthy tones, make it look more like sort of cold steel, and just fill in some of these forgotten areas as well. Blend that off. Into the surrounding paint. Make sure that the underside of the vehicle there is nice and dark. There shouldn't really be any light there. Just going to soften up these branches a little bit as well. Just some water on the brush. And just catching my eye. I also think that these trees right at the back are blending slightly too much with the sky. I think that's enough. Just taking out a little bit of paint as well from the back of this vehicle. It's maybe too dark there. I quite like it when it's got a little bit more variation between the light and the dark paint. Add the cabin in, which I completely forgot about. Redefine these tyres a little bit as well. I'll just get the pen back out to help suggest there's a big mound of dirt in the back of this vehicle. Right, so I think I'll leave it there before I inevitably overwork this. Hopefully I managed to inject some beauty into this construction site. There's certainly quite a lot of colour there. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you next time.